This is probably the most important thing that I've learned in my entire career as a software engineer. It's not a problem to write a code. It's much more complicated to come to an agreement with others on what the code should do.
I'm Boris, I'm a tech lead from Tel Aviv, and during the last 10 years I worked in different companies and I visited probably 100 meetings. But there is one meeting that I will never forget. Two senior engineers, R&D managers, were about to start fighting because of the technical decision. It was funny and frustrating at the same time. So I was sitting there as their dad and thinking that sometimes even super talented programmers fail to deliver their ideas. Sometimes technical meetings look like a scene from a spaghetti western. Of course, nobody comes to an agreement, action items are not defined, this leads to another meeting and another meeting and another meeting, and it pushes the release date. Sure, you know better than me how it looks like when everything goes wrong. I believe this is something more relevant probably for smaller startups and less for big corporates. Also nowadays even bad meetings are relatively calm, as we respect each other and we're at work. But in the end, I know that you are angry and you know that I'm angry, and the whole software development cycle becomes a sort of an unhealthy process. But there is a way to fix it. But before fixing it, we need to debug. In our case, to debug the people. Why does it happen? Because if something triggers us, we react absolutely the same way, at work and at home. Let's assume I'm at home with my wife. How can I understand that she's angry? Usually I understand it from the tone of her voice. So I understand that she is angry, and the first thing that I want to do is just to ask, what? Do you think it helps? Does she calm down after my response? Of course not. So why do I always react the same way? I found the answer in the words of Virginia Satir. She's an American family therapist. She says that this happens automatically. We've got no control of our reaction and we can't control the reactions of other people. She explains it pretty well in Satir interaction model. To be honest, I've never read her works. I mean original works. But I read some kind of a second-hand book based on her works. So it's a pretty complicated model and it's less relevant to our topic, but her model was simplified by Gerald Weinberg. According to the simplified model, there are 4 steps of interaction: intake, meaning, significance, and response. I simplified this model even more to 2 steps: interpretation and response, because I want to focus on something that can give us the most value. And of course, will help you to fix your meetings. So let's take an example. 2 people are arguing about something. The first person receives an input. Going back to my wife, let's assume I did something or maybe said something before. So this is her input. She translates this input according to her patterns. During our life, we build the patterns. Everything starts from the childhood. Our parents are the first people we trust. Let's assume a kid sees that his father looks at him in a certain way, or for example, stands in a certain way. So he understands that probably something is wrong and reacts accordingly. After interpreting the input, my wife sends her response. She reacts and she has no control over her response. I translate her response according to my patterns. I understand that she is angry. I don't like it. I want to change her response. And of course, I've got no control over my reaction too. That's why I send her my automatic response. And the irony of this interaction that my wife doesn't realize that I've got no control of my response. My response is as automatic and as rational as her response. Maybe if she were in my place, she would react exactly the same way, but she doesn't understand it, and the loop goes on. So how we can break this loop? Our biggest mistake is that we always focus on the response. We want to change the response by responding in the certain way, and this is wrong. Instead, we need to focus on the interpretation. We know our family members and we know what's important for them, so we can change what we say in order to avoid such situations. And now is the interesting part. If we can do this at home, we can do this in the office too. Virginia Satir and her colleagues have found out fairly quickly that families and organizations behave in a very interesting and similar way. We just need to understand what's important for our colleagues before going to a meeting with them. Let's assume you need to explain some your technical decision to your manager. What's important for him? Performance, alignment with an existing architecture, the time you need to develop this feature, anything else? Why doesn't he accept your idea? What should you do if everything goes wrong during the meeting? The first and the best thing that you can do is to stop that meeting immediately. Stop it in a polite and nice way and take a break. Take a break to think. And when you are thinking, you need to answer the main question. How does he translate what you say that it leads to the response like that? And the main rule of the game is to find at least 3 answers to this question. If you can't find 3 options, you don't try good enough. By the way, this is not my rule, this is something what Gerald Weinberg says. After finding these 3 options, you set another meeting with the same person and you are ready for the bad conversation. But start the meeting another way. First, start explaining how your technical decision or your idea fits to what's important for your manager. And only after that, explain how it solves the actual problem. Meeting your colleagues is an ongoing process. It can be very difficult and you need to practice. With getting more experience, you'll be able to do it better. You'll start even using this technique in a real time when a conversation goes wrong. If something goes wrong, you'll be able to recover a bad conversation. You'll say, I know my solution is far from perfect, but according to what you say, I think that it fits because, and you actually explain how this fits to what's important for him. And after even more practice, you'll be able to prevent such bad conversations at all. So change what you say in order to increase the chances that it will be interpreted the way you mean it to be. Then you'll see that the meetings will become more effective, everyone will be happy, and then you can actually go to the easy part. Start writing the code. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.